About 122 people were killed by police in the first 8 months of this year, that's 2016. This finding is contained in Deadly Force, the most comprehensive database on death from police encounters ever published in Kenya. It was compiled from media and the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, that's IPOA, reports as well as reference records from human rights organizations. The 122 represents a 7% increase from data collected over the same period last year. Now this year, the number of killings by police is on track to surpass the 2015 count of more than 140 deaths. Data from the special project built by Nation Newsplex suggests. Andrew Chieng breaks the numbers down for you.
Austin Juma Oduor was shot dead by police on the 23rd of May this year in Siaya town. The 28-year-old was the fourth child of Selina Atieno Juma and husband of Pauline Amundi. They say on that day, Austin had joined other protesters in Siaya in the demonstrations against the IEBC.
Akaniacha na watoto wawili wasichana wadogo sana. But Austin was the breadwinner in my house because with me I'm jobless. Austin ndiye alikuwa ananiletea kila kitu na yeye alikuwa anafundisha watoto. Sasa since he died ni kuna big gap because kuna vile naweza pata chakula, kuna vile naweza fundisha watoto.
Austin left behind a distraught family, which wonders why police had to open fire on unarmed protesters who they say were merely exercising their rights. The family has received 400,000 shillings as compensation, but they say that is not enough to sustain them and can never fill the void left by their son, father and husband. More promises from the state that could have helped their lives improve have not been forthcoming.
And the government promised from his death ataniandika kazi. From that day, sijapata feedback. Wajaniita, waliniambia after the burial wataniita. Sijawahi itwa. So I don't know what they are planning about that. And then walini promise watafundisha watoto. Since that point, wajaniuliza kitu chochote about the kids.
At least 5 people were shot dead by police during the protests against the IEBC in Kisumu and Siaya counties. All of them, the families insist, were unarmed, and some were not even participating in the protests. On the 3rd of August in Bondo, protesters stormed the police station in Bondo town, agitating for the release of 2 women who had been suspected of stealing a baby. The crowd was baying for the blood of the women, but the police would not let them lynch the 2. Instead, they opened fire on the protesters and killed 3 people. Among them was 20-year-old Joseph Odiango, a welder. His mother at first could not believe that her son had been shot dead.
Huyo mtoto alikuwa mpole sana. Tena nilikuwa mpenda huyo mtoto yangu sana. Kwa sababu huyo mtoto yangu alikuwa tangu nilizaliwa yeye alikuwa ana neno hata kidogo. Huyo mtoto alikuwa ana neno hata kule alikuwa nasoma, hakuna mtu alishakuja ati huyu anafanya hivi na hivi. Mpaka ameanza hiyo kazi yake ya welding.
Mary had paid for the son's training to be a welder. Joseph had now learned to make windows and doors and was doing well for himself. She doesn't understand how her son, who she was told had only been shot on the legs, died a couple of hours later in hospital.
Huyo mtoto yangu nilifanyia bidii afanye hiyo welding. Hata sasa hii niko na vitu za welding nilishanunua. Huyo mtoto afanya aendelea na hiyo nini ya maisha yake. Sasa amepoteza, ameacha hizo vitu. Mimi sina neno hata kidogo kwa sababu hizo maneno ni za Mungu tu.
Kisumu and Siaya recorded some of the highest incidents of police shootings. The leading counties, however, were Nairobi, West Pokot and Vihiga. The total number of people shot dead by police in the country was 122, with August and January being the deadliest months. 33 people were killed by police in August, 21 in January and 20 in July. With a population of 44 million people, Kenya compares badly to some countries in the developed world when it comes to police killings. Compared with England and Wales, for instance, only 2 people were killed by police in the 2 territories in the first 6 months of 2016. While in January, 21 Kenyans were killed by the police, it has taken the English and Welsh police 10 years to kill a similar number. The high number of killings in Kenya have been blamed on quality and duration of police training, lack of adherence to policing guidelines, and the poverty levels among the population. But even with these grim statistics in the country, not all cases of police shootings are accurately recorded, and sometimes the versions given by the security agencies conflict with witness accounts. Of the cases examined by the Nation Newsplex in a period of 20 months, 75 of those killed by police were unarmed, suggesting that the lives of the police or bystanders were not in any danger. In 44 of the cases, it was not known whether the victim was armed or unarmed. One victim, though suspected to be a thug but was unarmed when he was shot, was Vitalis Odhiambo Odongo. His mother, Lillian Achieng, admits that it was tough for her as single mother, raising a teenager in the tough neighborhood of Shauri Moyo, but doesn't understand why the police had to kill him. Odongo had been watching football in a nearby field when a police officer known in the area as Benteke accosted him and started shooting him.
Akaenda akaingia kwa nyumba dada yake. Akampata kijana ako huko ndani, akapiga mlango, akamtoa. Kumtoa na akamvuruta akamdanganya tutoka tu sitakupiga risasi kuua nimeshafanya nini nimeshakuweka kelele. Kijana akatoka kimsarenda kimbebea mkono juu akamwambia nisamee nimefanya nini. Yeye hakutaka kujua akamtoa na akamshoot na akammalizia hapo akamuua hapo.
Odongo, 17, had been shot 9 times.
Hiyo ndio kitu inaniuma sana. Juu angemshika na ampeleke ndani bila kumuua kama mnyama hivyo.
Most of the families that have lost their loved ones to police shooting, especially in the informal settlements, have no way of following up the matter or even attempting to get legal redress. They simply cannot afford it. Andrew Ochieng, NTV.
Well, Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Kaiseri denied that police kill people outside of the law. Data compiled by the Daily Nation Newsplex, just like mentioned earlier, documented that 122 people had been executed by police in the first 8 months of this year, 7% more than the same period last year. Kaiseri, in his defense of the service, says this was a conspiracy to discredit the police service.
After interviews with witnesses, families of victims, and a compilation of reference records from the Independent Policing Oversight Authority and human rights organizations, the Daily Nation's Newsplex painted an unsavory picture of police death squads. 122 people, the report says, had been killed in the first 8 months of this year. Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaiseri, however, disagrees with the contents of this report.
The authors of the reports appear to be suffering from confusion and lack of proper understanding of the differences between lawful police action when executing their mandate in the defense of life and property and the so-called extrajudicial killing that usually attract court action irrespective of the status of the offender.
The findings contained in the most comprehensive database on death from police encounters ever published in Kenya, Deadly Force, reports a 7% increase in the number of civilians killed by police over the same period last year. Nairobi leads the pack.
There is no policy whatsoever within the National Police Service to engage in extrajudicial killing. Kenya is a country that is governed by law, and the police are no exception.
Recent killing of lawyer Willie Kimani increased public mistrust of the police service. Even though police hold their hands are clean, a number of these complaints against what many see as trigger-happy police officers have been registered with the Police Oversight Authority. But the government, in its defense, says a number of them have been found to be baseless.
A few rascals do not justify condemnation of an entire institution. The National Police Service has on its own taken disciplinary action against indisciplined officers. These are facts in the public domain.
According to the report, even though a number of those killed had a criminal record, 1 of 3 persons shot were unarmed or had surrendered. Kenya also scored badly compared to other countries when it comes to death in the hands of police officers, almost at par with the United States. And even though some of these cases, especially those in marginalized or slum areas, are not reported. That's the government's defense against allegations that ordinary cops on the beat are turning to killers, doling out death to innocent civilians. They say that this is just an effort to discount police officers working hard to serve and protect. Sheila Sendeo, NTV, Nairobi.
And that forms the basis of our question. Do you agree with the data on police shootings compiled by the Nation Newsplex? That's on your screen right now. The hashtag is AMLiveNTV. You can tweet at AMLiveNTV or at Trevor Mbija. We'll sample some of them during this broadcast. My guests are already with me. Charles Owino, police spokesperson; James Olola, director, legal and complaints; IPOA; Boniface Mwangi, human rights activist and also an award-winning photographer; Zadok Angira, Daily Nation reporter. He is part of the team that published that particular story; and Vincent Ngede, Daily Nation reporter as well, and part of the database Newsplex that came up with this entire conversation. Let me start with Charles Owino here. And the police are disputing these figures. What are the official figures?
First of all, Trevor, our duty as a service is not to dispute issues. Our duty is to protect you and to protect our nation. I remember a few years ago, 2013, 2015, you were all over writing, reporting, yearning and talking about insecurity in the country, including that we have been overrun by Al-Shabaab, to an extent that you demanded for removal of our minister and our IG, which was done to you. And you've been brought for people, a general who is working for you, a police officer and an intelligence officer who is working for you. And it is very clear that you are biased towards your reporting. I have to say that because I'm a Kenyan citizen. Unfortunately, the first things that you have reported about demonstrations in Kisumu and Siaya shows very clearly how biased you are. I come from Siaya, I come from that county, and expect when I leave service to be an administrator in that county. And I have no regrets or fear in explaining these situations. If you are not biased, you would have shown us what the civilians did on that particular day. Instead of coming up with a skewed story of the wife to the victim and not telling us what actually the public did on that particular day. We have, just a minute, I'm just telling you, you would have shown us what the boys did on that particular day. Fortunately, I was present in Siaya. And remember, apart from coming from the county, I'm born there and I'm a policeman. And I must stand to what regulations talk about. There are very clear circumstances in law where police officers are justified to use their arms. And I'm very lucky that today we have Olola here from IPOA, who has a mandate to oversee the actions of the police, and he will be able to explain to you. Your first statement was that police executed 122 people. When you say that, it means all the 122 people who could have been felled by the fire of the police were unjustifiably killed, which I think is outrageous. When as a reporter, you come up to say you are police that protects you, that ensures that you are safe and smart the way you are, that Nation Center has not been bombed, has executed 122 people. You are ridiculing, it's a ridicule to your own police service that is there to protect you. What we are saying is simple as a service, that we have a responsibility to protect the nation, and it is important for the members of the public to respect and even to an extent fear that if you commit an offense, you will be dealt with. Just an overview, I want to give you another example of Bondo Town that you are talking about. Two ladies who had unfortunately lost their sister at birth were escorting the young infant from Siaya Hospital to Nyangoma Children's Home. And on reaching the stage, over 400 boys wanted to lynch them. The police had a responsibility to protect their lives. And even when they were brought to the police station, you have not shown us what they did. They brought down the canteen, brought down the armory, injured officers, and you are busy here. You know,
Mr.
what you are trying to create,
why not
just a
arrest
minute,
these
what
people?
you are trying to create.
And you haven't answered my
I'm just
question.
giving
What
you,
are the official
I'm just
figures
giving you,
here?
I'm just giving you an overview. The issue is not figures of people who have been felled by police. What you should be telling me here, because you are accusing us, is that the following are unjustified killings, with reasons. I'm giving you an example of Bondo, the two ladies that we protected their lives. If we left them, they would have been lynched. Was their life less important?
Let me bring in IPOA on this.
Yeah.
Are there instances where it's justified for the police to use lethal force?
Thank you, Trevor. Maybe before I answer you, I must say I'm happy that Mr. Owino is not disputing those figures, because I think in as much as I'm not sure where the Newsplex got all the sources of those reports, they largely reflect the situation on the ground. Maybe as Mr. Owino says, they were not executed. Our role as an investigator, as an oversight authority, is really to find out the circumstances under which all these killings happened, and we are in the process of doing that. But it is true, there are circumstances when police may be justified to use force and to use firearms. But those are very clear exceptions. And if you go to Schedule 6 of the National Police Service Act, it is very clear the circumstances under which the police may use force on the members of the public. And Schedule 6B tells you when the police may use firearms, may resort to the use of firearms. At all particular times, the police must strive to use less forceful means as much as possible when dealing with the members of the public. And that is why we don't want to get angry about these figures. All we want to see is, as an oversight authority, we want to know in what circumstances did this happen. And as IPOA, I can tell you we have investigated a number of cases, many cases involving the police. And there are instances when we clear them, but there are also many instances where we have recommended their prosecution, and we have about 32 cases in court where we think the shooting was unjustified.
Okay. And by the way, I have Angira here. He's one of the people who wrote these stories, and he says more than 122 people were shot and killed by police. So, Angira, are we just involved in a game of semantics here, or is it, because the figures are not in dispute, really?
I think we are giving general answers to very specific questions. If you look at our stories, the areas where we gave example, the law is very clear that police may use force, but that force should end once the threat has been contained. We gave a story of Shauri Moyo, where the boy was shot 3 times, ran about 300 meters away, went to the sister's house, the officer removed him from the house and shot him. These are the answers we will expect, and not just giving general answers to specific questions. Then number 2, IPOA gave us some statistics on 29th September, clearly indicating that between the period of January to 22nd September, 28 people were shot dead by police, and 34 others died in the hands of the police. And what they explained was, like, for example, in the case of Ruaraka, when a suspect was tortured in cells and later died. So they were very specific that 28 were shot, 34 died in the hands of the police. Are the police disputing these facts? That should be the question.
Police spokesperson, you're not disputing these figures like
No,
you
no,
mentioned
no.
earlier.
Let
me bring in Vincent first, because
before you bring in
part of the
Vincent,
news
just a minute.
Let's
Just
find out where
just
they got
before
all
you
that
bring
info
in,
from. Yes.
Angira says they want specific answers. He's talking about general answers. Just give me 2 minutes. First of all, I'm proud that I have Angira, who is a policeman. This gentleman has been trained and was a police inspector and understands how we work. Angira, you are aware that you cannot condemn the service for having killed anyone, because there are very clear procedures that we undertake when a person dies and there is a feeling that his life has been taken. One, we have the oversight authority. They will answer on those specific questions. For example, have they received complaints after this boy of Shamuri Moyo was shot? Have they even received a complaint from the family that this man was shot unfairly? As much as they talk, they don't have legal might, but they could go to an institution like IPOA. Let IPOA tell you, have they received this? Number 2, you are in agreement that this boy was a thief. You even wrote in your writing, you even stated that he had earlier been arrested for stealing a phone, and there was negotiation for that phone to be returned by the family. You admitted that. Now, what we are saying is that when a person dies in a circumstance that you think another person has committed an offense, even if it's a policeman, then we carry out an inquiry into the cause of death, in which it happens if, for example, we as the police, we think somebody has committed an offense and we don't know clearly who has committed an offense, or we don't have facts, or the family complains. Now, what happens when this happens? It goes before the court of law. The inquest is done before a magistrate having jurisdiction. If the magistrate is of the opinion, like for example the case of Kwekwe in Mombasa, if the magistrate is convinced that somebody has committed an offense, even if it's a police officer, they will recommend and the person will be arrested. What we are talking about is we must become professional. You have moved from, you have the vast knowledge of police service, having been an inspector, and now when you are writing, you must now become very professional in the manner in which you write. You cannot jump into conclusion and say 122 people executed, no investigation is properly carried out. And you are attacking the service that is there to protect you. You are encouraging lawlessness in the country. As much as, yes, there are cases where police officers have been found to have committed an offense by killing. And
so
we must all, no, there are cases. Yes. But you see, what you are writing is not objective. It's biased. When you talk about Bondo, for example, you have just talked about Bondo here. When you talk about Bondo, this is a very clear case of unlawlessness. Over 4,000 people went to the police station.
Does that justify the killing, shooting?
Excuse me, can read the law. And if it does not, let IPOA, excuse me, if it does not, let IPOA indict us for that and have the officers taken to court.
Do you agree with this?
But we cannot allow.
Shoot because it seems that the police are not interested in arresting.
I don't agree with the police spokesman. I spoke about 75 people who were shot and were unarmed. Where were they not arrested? The last 2 weeks, 16 young people.
My brother, be specific.
Hold on 1 second.
Be professional.
Let him finish.
Okay. Don't talk about 75. Give me one case.
Let him finish.
That an inquest has been done.
Just let him finish.
No. We are not going to be pedestrian here. No.
I'll give you the chance to respond.
We will not
Just
allow
let him respond.
discussion.
Let him finish, then I'll give you the chance.
So be professional.
You're the one who has the facts.
Keep quiet.
Mr. Wino, you're the one who has the facts.
Right.
We'll come back to you with the facts. Let him
give the context of who I am and what I've been able to do.
Okay.
So, between 2005 and 2008, I used to work for the Standard newspaper as a photographer, and I covered police executions. And I've actually done a book about it. I have the book right here. It's called Unbounded. I covered police executions. And I'll give an example. June 4, 2007, there was a police operation in Mathare where 14 young men were shot, unarmed. I documented, and I want to see an award for that. I covered post-election violence, and I saw the killings by the police and actually by people who are not police. However, there's a police, when they go to protest and when they deal with young people, they use deadly force when they suspect that you're a thief. If you go to Kibera slums, if you go to Mathare slums, most young men actually convert to Islam because they know they'll get shot by police and they have to be buried the same day. They don't want to be a burden to their families. The police have come up with a way to deal with crime because people are convicted of crime. They decide to use deadly force on anyone suspected of being a snatcher or a thief. Because they're actually saying that person was a thief. Was that person armed? The Shauri Moyo case, let's give an example of the one that you're talking about. The Shauri Moyo case, Bentek is a known killer in Kamkunji area. We know it. And this young man was unarmed. He should have been arrested. When we talk about suspects in this country, we have suspects who have been suspected of crimes against humanity, like the president and the deputy president. They're not shot. When a member of parliament has stolen millions of shillings, they're not shot. So we are saying, give the young man the chance for a due process, because this country has actually admitted in the past, during Satoti's time, that they have hit squads. Professor Alston did a report that the government admitted they have hit squads. We understand Kenya government run hit squad. I grew up in Pangani, where Pangani Flying Squad is based. I've lost friends to Flying Squad. Then they became Kwekwe and other names. They mutate all the time. So Special Crime Prevention Unit. The Kenya government response to armed crime is deadly force. However, in that deadly force, they kill unarmed people. So we are not disputing the police are here to protect us. What we're saying is, please, if someone is unarmed and they do not pose a danger to the police, arrest them. You're talking about IPOA, how IPOA is very good. You guys are fighting IPOA. The IG Boynet is fighting IPOA. The Kenya police does not appreciate IPOA because IPOA is doing their job. There's no way you can actually trust the police to investigate themselves. But the police are actually trying to block IPOA from doing their job.
All right. Let me bring in
I
Gethe
think
on this.
before he comes in, no, let me ask him a question.
Yes.
He has decorated himself to have investigated so many cases.
I've covered
how many
extrajudicial killings.
in how many inquests have you testified for all these cases, in case there has been any?
I was never invited, but you see, before...
No, you don't need to be invited.
During my time, actually, when I was covering extrajudicial
You
killings...
see, if you have documented this information, it is not for your own use. You must have been contacting other institutions like IPOA and saying, I have this, I've been a witness. So that if they have any matter, excuse me,
yes,
I'm helping you.
No, you're
so
not
that you don't just keep a document.
This job that you're occupying right now is not a new job. I spoke to Keraithe. I've sat down with Keraithe and actually spoken to him. So you're not new in the job. As in this position occupied.
I've been there for over 8 years.
Yes, but Keraithe used to be a spokesman, and I sat down with him.
I spoke about these things.
I was his deputy for all those years.
Dealing with the Newsplex.
Yes, I met your boss then.
How concrete is this information?
This information was sourced from, we began from the most conservative of sources, which was stories that were published in the newspaper. If you go to the database online, because this is something that you can access, if you're online and you go to newsplex.nation.co.ke/deadlyforce, you can actually see the database. And we actually show every single person who was shot. The reason we decided to do this was because the police themselves do not tell us how many they kill. They don't say. Remember that the police every year produces an annual crime report. They can tell you how many incidents of cattle rustling were in West Pokot. They can tell you how many carjackings were in Murang'a. They can tell you how many instances of obtaining by false pretenses were in Nairobi. They document lots and lots and lots of crimes, but they don't tell us the few times when they kill somebody. This is a gap that needs to be filled, and this is what Newsplex decided to do.
All right.
We did not approach this from the side of executions. I mean, executions were a popular topic of discussion before this, in other countries also. But what we decided to do was just document who gets shot, just who they shot. So even the story that was the Newsplex story does not say that police executed 122. It doesn't say that. It says police killed 122. Those killings, some of them were even, it could be as diverse as, you know, the police officers who, you know, shoot others because, you know, they have a conflict, they have a war conflict, maybe it's a love triangle or something. Just any reason why a police officer shot someone.
All right.
And we recorded it.
Okay.
So we did not impute blame and say they broke the law. Even the lawful ones where there was a shootout between a policeman and a criminal and the policeman had to use his weapon to save his life, we tried to document those. So there was no intention to pin the police down and say that they are executing 122.
All right.
Because I'm under attack, can I comment on what he has said?
No, you're not under attack. You mentioned that you're not condemning the entire
you see, now there's a difference between what he's saying and what you are saying. And that is the point of disagreement.
I do have
Excuse me.
here.
No, what you are saying, you just said it now.
It's
police
here.
executed.
122 people were
Yeah,
killed, shot and killed.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying there's a difference on how he's explaining his record of the Newsplex and how you are talking. You are the one informing the public. And you are telling the public, after getting records from him, you are misleading the public and telling the public that they have said police executed. But he's telling you he has records of people who were killed by police on various reasons. Whether they are lawful or unlawful is not what they have done. What they have done is records on people killed by police for one reason or
another.
Yeah. Now, Nation is saying police executed. And Trevor is saying it on air, police executed.
Trevor, 75
and
were executed,
and that is why I'm
75.
saying, excuse me, and that is why I'm saying, you know, for you to say a person, let us be a bit more professional. When you want to, you know, I will not be a policeman forever.
True.
My children are not policemen. My wife is not a policeman. My brothers and sisters are not policemen. And I cannot, and we cannot as a service, protect a policeman who has committed an offense. But
can I interject?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
I think the stories that were published, I mean, they have been published for everybody to read. And I mean, I don't think Trevor said that.
No, he has
police
just said it here,
executed
on air.
122.
Surely.
No, he said they killed.
No, he has said it on air, executed.
And
No,
even then,
Surely.
He did not. The thing
Surely.
this is the script.
That
I
is
was
why
reading.
people... No.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
said he's
You
even
said
showing
it
you
on
the
air.
script.
It's 122
people were
Surely
killed.
I would
And
be mad.
even
Killed.
then,
No.
even then, the involvement in semantics
Excuse me.
is not important.
If you are
What
now
we need
changing
focus
it to
on here-
killed,
Yes.
well and good.
And-
But you are
and
saying
you even mentioned to begin with
executed.
that you're not disputing the figures.
There's-
What
no,
you're
no.
disputing is the
Excuse me.
circumstances
There is-
under which they were shot.
Surely.
Wait,
Trevor,
Mr.
let's-
Wino.
Anyway,
No.
sawa.
Let's-
If you're not
let's-
saying
No, no,
police
you're-
executed, well and good.
Well,
Then
I
you
mean-
rest your case.
Yes.
Let's talk about the stories, because what we tried to do was try and make more of statistics than these, because these are real people. One of the stories that I wrote myself after Zadok wrote the story on Shauri Moyo, and I think where the police has come under attack really is not so much that they're using their weapons, but that, as in the case Zadok pointed out, you have a person whom you have caught, whom you have shot, who is wounded, who is begging for his life, telling you, please don't kill me. And the policeman kills him. He's helpless, he's wounded, he's bleeding, he's there. You can pick him up and take him where you want to take him, but they shoot him. This is a very big complaint, particularly in Mathare where I was. I spent some time there, and what people are saying is that many policemen in Mathare, in these slums, will come and tell a person whom they accuse of a crime that if I see you again, I will shoot you. Now the problem is, this young man lives there. His mother lives there. So of course you're going to see him again, right? His mother could send him to buy milk. He'll meet that policeman, he'll shoot him. This is the problem, that people are asking, why don't you arrest him? They were, the story that I wrote about...
Give me one example in Mathare. The name and
yes,
the person?
There's a story I wrote about this, actually, about 3 people who were killed. There was a man called Silas Muthini. There was another one called, there was Silas Muthini, there was Brian Washika, and another person whose name is not well known. He had a nickname of Tito, but his real name is not known. And the lady who survived this shooting, because she was there, and she survived it because the police came, she was seated with 3 men, and they shot all 3 and left her there. Okay? Right. And the question was that you had 3 people seated down. They were seated, talking, and 3 policemen come with guns.
I think these are some of the things we want to hear you raising in an inquest.
Yeah. Here's the problem.
Here's
the problem.
Here's the problem. No, I can't.
Trevor, let me finish the point. Trevor, let me finish this
point
point because it's very important.
Yeah.
We are dealing with, when you talk about inquests, you're not dealing with legally empowered people who understand the law or who can even hire lawyers. You're dealing with people who live in the slums who are intimidated by these officers. Okay? They're afraid because they see these...
we withdraw officers from the slums.
No, we're just insisting that these police officers...
No, we just withdraw officers from the slums.
They must
we
behave,
let them
behave
kill
properly.
one another, do whatever
What
they
he's
want.
saying is to arrest the culprits.
Why
rather than
not
shoot
arrest
them. But
this
let's take a break on that one.
How
first.
many
When we
people
come
are we
back,
arresting
I'll
on
let you
daily
respond on
basis?
that and why. I'll let you respond on why
It's
you
okay.
would rather kill
You guys
than
are
arrest.
comic.
But I'll remind you the question again here is, do you agree with the data on police shootings compiled by The Nation Newsplex? We're taking a short break here on AM Live. When we come back, our discussion still continues this morning. We're standing on guard. All right, the discussion is still going on even during the break, but we're back. The question is, do you agree with the data on police shootings compiled by The Nation Newsplex? And I have a lot of feedback coming through. William Agembo says, the data is not true. It's actually more. Most of the cases are not recorded. My cousin was shot dead last month after surrendering. And Charles, we know that's where we were earlier on. Is there instances, is it true that sometimes police just shoot those people even after they've surrendered?
You see, I cannot say that unless, I'm an officer of the law. I'm not a watchman. And as an officer of the law, you can only act or talk on facts that have been placed through procedure. For example, if somebody raises an allegation that his brother was shot, the best thing I would do is to have him record a statement, have the case investigated, and get to know truly this man was shot after surrendering. Nobody accepts, even when his own child is a criminal. And I can look at all these 4 gentlemen. They appear to be advocates of criminals. Nobody is telling me, excuse me, nobody is telling me, excuse me, how many, fine. Nobody is telling us how many Kenyans have been killed by criminals in the last 4 years. How many Kenyans have been threatened by criminals? How many armed carjackings do we have in this country, and so on and so forth and so on. So it's important also to be objective when you are looking at, when you want to attack the police, because the role of the police. But I wouldn't mind if there's an allegation against a particular police officer, like the case of Shauri Moyo, which Angira is raising. I hope immediately Angira raised it and they saw it, IPOA saw it, they went ahead and maybe opened a file for it, or they had done it earlier. So that if it's an obvious case of a police officer killing somebody unjustifiably, recommending that the officer be charged. If it is a case where they have to take through an inquest, they do it. Because he attacked the Inspector General and said the Inspector General is fighting IPOA. I don't know whether Inspector General is the one that gives them money to work, is the one that employs them, is the one that directs them on what
let's focus on the discussion.
Because you know it is very bad to...
Let's stay on the subject.
Okay, let's do this. Between 2009 and 2014, 70% of the 1,800 people who died in this country were shot by police, gunshot wounds. This country, the majority of people who are shot every year are shot by the police. If you want to dispute that, give us your data, give us the numbers. Because
what I'm saying,
because you can't come here without, we guys have numbers. Let me finish.
It is only the police, excuse me, no, please, no, it's only, no, just a minute. It's only the police that are justified to use a firearm against a person if he thinks he's justified to use the firearm. So I don't expect him to have, or Angira, to have killed a person. But what we should be discussing is, excuse me, what we should be discussing is, are those killings, any killings in place, justifiable or not?
So Kenyans, let me finish because I was saying this. Kenyans are 5 times more likely to be shot by the police than criminals. So, okay, can I say something?
Just finish.
I want to ask you something because we have data here. We're talking about numbers, right? They have numbers that they've collected. I want him to give us numbers of people shot by criminals because in this country, police shoot more people than criminals. That's what you're saying right here. That the police will arrest a suspect, take them somewhere, and shoot them. That's what they do.
Is that true, Mr. Law?
And if there are no numbers, you have numbers of people who have not...
It is largely true.
It's largely true, and that is why I'm saddened by the way we are discussing issues here. Because, Mr. Owino, we are not discussing the National Police Service. We are discussing individual police officers who are guilty of serious misconduct. And as we sit here, what is worrying to us, especially as IPOA, is the tone that is coming from the top. Yeah. You see the police spokesman appearing on TV every other day justifying killings. I mean, I think that is something we need to get away from. What we need to do, no, you are not supposed to justify killings. You are a disciplined police officer and you're supposed to give guidance to your officers on the ground.
Excuse me.
The law is clear. The law, let me explain to you. The law is clear. You are saying here that we should start inquests. We have discovered as IPOA that inquest is where the police go and hide and make sure that that case will take 5 years because they will never collect anything. They just start cases that
is it a provision in law?
It is a provision in law as a last
no, is it a provision
as a last resort if the police fail to do your investigation. In Kwekwe, which you have mentioned yourself, Owino.
Which Kwekwe?
Kwekwe
the girl of Mombasa.
Yes. The police asked for an inquest, yet the evidence was glaring that this is a person who was killed. What are we talking about? I mean, we need something from the top of your service.
Are you fighting
to tell
police
the officers,
or oversighting
nobody is
police?
fighting you. Nobody is fighting
you. Are you fighting
we want
police?
To act,
or oversighting
police? Responsibly and within the law.
Yes.
As we sit here, we have received, and I will support what Boniface is saying, 5,784 cases were received as at 30th June 2016. Serious misconduct by police. because of various capacity challenges, we have only been able to deal with about 1,308. But I have seen reports saying that the other 4,000 were baseless. We have not found those other 4,000 baseless. Most of them, in fact 25%, we have referred to the Internal Affairs Unit so that you're supposed to do investigations. They are not doing investigations at Internal Affairs Unit. That unit has been declared moribund. It is just sitting there. They have no capacity to do anything. And IPOA is expected to deal with all these cases with merely 40 investigators. It is a task that is becoming impossible because the police are refusing to act in a professional way. I'm sorry.
Let me explain something. As one of the journalists who wrote the story, and I will want to be very, very specific in the case of Shauri Moyo. Number one, Mr. Wino, we know there is what we call presumption of innocence.
Yes.
That a person is presumed innocent until you prove otherwise. As we said before, police are justified in using force, but that force should end the moment the threat ends. Like in this particular case, we highlighted it over a week ago. I would have expected you to come here and explain to us that this Vitalis Odongo had committed this offense and that the circumstances were justified. Then if I go back to the issue of cases reported to IPOA, I don't think it is right to say that only 98%, only 2% were found to be genuine and the rest were baseless. We know very well that people may report cases to IPOA. Some may be before court. Some may be referred to Internal Affairs Unit. Does that mean that out of the 4,474 cases which were not handled by IPOA were found to be baseless? So in short, what I'm saying, I would have expected you to tell us that we are investigating the case of Shauri Moyo and we find that the force which was used was justified.
What I'm saying,
and finally,
this database,
finally, the last thing, it is a fact that information gets distorted. You are the police headquarters. I personally went to the ground. And to explain this, I'll give you an example where a man was shot in Kawangware, the 14-year-old son. I went to the OSPD and he told me, Angira, these are very dangerous people. And in fact, they even damaged the AK-47. One of the AK-47 officers were armed with. What came out? The officers were convicted. So I think you should develop interest and get to know what is happening on the ground. Shauri Moyo is less than a kilometer from the police headquarters.
And Vincent, when you're compiling this data from the people on the ground, do they report these cases to the police? Because one of the things the spokesperson is saying that they don't have concrete data. These people report these matters?
Well, first of all, the really important thing to say is to remind us all why Nation Newsplex decided to do this. That police themselves don't tell us how many they shoot. And that is the one thing that is undercutting Mr. Owino's argument, everything he says, that he has no numbers of his own.
What are you talking
and he's not disputing the numbers.
Yes, the National Police Service needs to say that they need to tell Kenyans
how many people
they shot. And this is a very important thing. This other thing I'm going to say is also very important because it influences news reporting on crime. Many times, the news reports people read in public will say that 4 gangsters were shot dead.
Pistols recovered.
And that's all well and good. But these people are never named. You will see 4 gangsters were shot dead and they're never named.
I want to ask you a very
when you don't name a person, because when you name a person, you see another story emerges about this person and the life they had. And the facts through an investigation should be able to establish that, yes, he ran a business here, but in spite of all these other things that can act as alibis, he was actually involved in crime on this day. We're not saying that, we're trying to clean up his reputation, but not naming these people keeps them in the shadows.
Boniface, do they report these cases?
I actually disagree with how they kill people. So you kill 4 people, you recover 1 pistol. Why did the other 3 have to die? Because Kenya Police, even last week, I'm talking about the last 2 weeks in Mathare, 16 young men have been shot dead. 16 young men. When he says inquest, he means cover up. Because inquest is actually cover up. When IPOA has 40 investigators to investigate an entire country, they cannot be able to do that. They lack capacity to investigate that. Let me tell you, where we go wrong. Let's go back to the foundation of the Kenya Police Service. Kenya Police Service are poorly paid, poorly employed. Like we get a bunch of guys to run around a playing field, count their teeth, then employ them. When you employ those guys, you take them to Kiganjo, then when you bring them to their station, you house them like dogs. They live in a Mabati structure, 4 of them. So they're already demotivated. You're meeting a cop who's very frustrated. They live like a dog, they earn like a dog, they're frustrated, and then when they go to court, they can't argue their case. I've been to court so many times, and when the cops come to give testimony, he can't be able to do that because Kenya Police doesn't hire intellect. There are very few intellectuals in the Kenya Police Service. You hire people who have D+, D-, then you pay them poorly. You can't attract the best. The working conditions for Kenya Police Force are very, very bad.
Mr.
So
Wina,
this mixture actually make it right for corruption. That's why it's the most corrupt institution in this country. It's make it a place where there's a lot of violence because they're very frustrated. They have no psychiatrists. The Kenya Police has only 1 doctor, 2 doctors to cover all, what do they call this? P3s. Yeah. It's lack of structures, infrastructure, capacity, money, everything. And I think, Charles Owino, you have an opportunity, and because you don't even to become a politician, you should become a spokesman for better police service terms.
Mr.
Because
Wina,
right
let
now,
respond to that.
police lack
is the
better...
training of the police force
Before I
adequate?
go to that,
yes,
I would like to talk about the issue of the persons they say we shoot and we don't give their names. Mm-hmm. There's nobody that is shot or dies that his name is not given. What happens is, immediately a shootout occurs, like I think 2 days ago, there was a shootout and 4 people were killed. Mm-hmm. Immediately a shootout occurs, you cannot release names of the people that have been killed immediately because on the media, because the family members will have to know. It's not fair, ordinarily. Okay. Morally, it is not fair just to say, I've shot so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. And that is why we are saying we are very open. The level of crime, especially even those slum areas that you are talking about. We had a period in Mathare that you could not even pass a bridge at 7. And so many people were killed, stabbed by common individuals. And they were serialized, saying that police is not doing their work. What I think, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that we are defending cases where officers have shot unjustifiably. It would be moral for me to do that. But what we are saying is that blanket condemnation of the service, he said it is not the service. They are talking about the officers. If you look at the reports are talking about the service. It's not talking about the individual officers. And remember, there is a rift, there is a high level of mistrust between the public and the police. And in investigations, when there's a high level of mistrust between the public and the police, what happens is that it is the public that has information. And many a times, even somebody with very good information fails to bring the information. I've given an example of cases where people say the state has killed. Serikali imeua. I want to give you an example of the late Juma. When a person dies, and then the most immediate statement is the person has been killed by the state. What happens? You have already killed the case. The reason why you've killed the case, even the person who witnessed what happened will fear. He will say, if it is the state who has killed so-and-so, who am I to give this information? And then at the end of the day, the police has, because we are not angels, we have to rely on facts that we get. For example, yes, just a minute. For example, the Syokimau case. We were very lucky on the Willy Kimani's case because at least there was some connection between a person who got that information and the person passed that information to a relative. I can assure you, if it was not that the information reached the relative, this man who was given information would have kept quiet when he was told it is the police or the state.
So then
that's why we, just a minute, that's why we are saying that rift,
on luck.
Just a minute, we will never get policemen from Rwanda or from Uganda to work for us. We will have to work with our policemen here. Those things we are talking about, quality of training. It is not pay of police, where police live, and so on and so forth. It is not the duty of the police to pay themselves. It is not the duty of the police to house themselves. But if you look at the transformation agenda that we have had, a few years ago, we had a lot of problems when it came even to motor vehicles. Where I come from, there was a very old motor vehicle, several kilometers in a place called Ukwala, and they have to serve the larger the larger constituency. And you'd find even fuel was a problem, everything was a problem. As we speak today, the government has bought a record large number of motor vehicles. If you go even to very small posts, you find motor vehicles, and you find these vehicles are fueled by card. We must appreciate there is an improvement. As we speak today, the government is doing about 20,000 houses for police officers across the country. Just a minute. The shortage may be there, but remember, the government is not only paying for security. The government is paying for medical, the government is paying for education, a number of issues. So what we are saying is, there are areas that we can argue, that we can talk about. Yeah. So what I'm requesting for, all these concerns and arguments about persons who have been killed by the police must be done objectively. We must appreciate the duty that the police is doing to protect the nation. But that does not mean that police officers will take advantage of their responsibility to protect the nation to kill someone unjustifiably. And that is why,
let's bring in
just a minute, and that is why,
time now. Let's bring in
no, just a minute. I want to say something Olola has just said, that
very briefly.
Yeah, he is condemning us on, you know, you are an institution established by government. You know how to present your issues and disquiet to the public. This is not the forum where IPOA and police will be fighting and saying no, and attacking execute. And attacking. No. You've just attacked us. You have said Internal Affairs Unit is not doing anything.
I think because you want to talk forever, and I think Trevor has given me the chance. Yes, let me say something. And again, it's about the tone. There is a reason why the force that Owino served was changed from the Kenya Police Force to National Police Service. The problem is that we have a group of officers from that force who have refused to have a mind change, who have refused to see the transformation agenda, the reforms that were brought by the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And that is where the problem is. Article 244 of the Constitution requires the police to foster good relations with the community. How will you foster good relations with the community when all the time you show the community that all you are interested in is combat? Yeah. And the way, and that is why he's saying that sometimes you may not get information, because the community is the one that is having the information. If you have to have an intelligence-led investigation, the intelligence is coming from the community. And so there's a duty on the police to foster that good relation. And there's something Mr. Owino has said about, and which I think I'm happy to say because the press is here, reporting on death by the press. Because this idea of saying 4 armed gangsters shot, look at the case that happened in Kawangware. The press is also ready to report just the way the police are giving them the information. It turns up, one of the people who were shot in Kawangware was actually a police officer who had gone to the airport to escort an MP. And he comes and he's in a bar in Kawangware, and somebody says this man is an armed criminal. And they come and shoot them, and they say these are criminals. 3 months down the line, when we investigate, we find that this was actually one of them. And it's very unfortunate. I mean, they even kill their own because of that kind of recklessness. Yeah. So it is something that we ask even for the press. When you are reporting about these things, please interrogate. And Mr. Owino is saying that they cannot release information because that time they don't want to give names of people like this and that. That is also not true. If you go to the records that they have at the police station, they will say even a person they know, an unnamed, unknown person was shot, fatally wounded, something like that, so that the records disappear. We have a case of 2 university students who were killed outside the Globe Cinema roundabout. 2 Egerton University students. They had their ID cards on. They were thrown at City Mortuary with all those things, and it took some time for us to discover that these were actually the students. Because the police are not keeping records, and that is one way of fostering corruption. Even if you go to the police station, they don't want to record who has been arrested at that police station, who has been detained, and that is what happened in Syokimau. Because when Willie Kimani and his colleagues were taken to Syokimau, nobody recorded in the OB that they were in that police station, and they would have disappeared like that. So it is incumbent upon Mr. Owino as the spokesman of the police to advise the police here that these are the steps you are supposed to take when these things happen, not to just start saying they are being victims. Nobody is condemning the police. We are all interested. And as IPOA, we have started a way of awarding police officers who are doing a good job. We have the Outstanding Police Service Awards, which we did in April. And we have shown that if you are a police officer who is doing your work as per the law, as IPOA, we are proud of you, and we will be able to reward you for that.
All right, Bonnie, how
Thank
many
you.
times did this collateral damage actually happen? Whereby and then the manual recording on the OB, which makes it very difficult to get that information.
So I know that there's been actually attempts to digitize the police occurrence book. Because of the high level corruption in the top brass of the police service, they have refused. If we decide to actually do an internal audit of how much these guys are worth, you realize actually after politicians, the most richest people are police officers. They run matatus, they run bars, they run all manner of businesses, and then they can never investigate themselves. That is the reason why, as we talk about Kenya being the most corrupt country in the world, the police service being one of the most corrupt people in this country, there's not a single police officer in jail for corruption because they can never investigate themselves. And we also know very well that Kavulundi, the vetting board, is also corrupt. He has been rubber stamping everyone who comes. We know some of the guys. I worked, and we used to have a magazine called, at the Standard, Crime Courts and Investigations. So I dealt with cops every single day. And we know how many properties they own in this country. We know the materials that actually they own, and we know that that money came through corrupt means. But Kavulundi has not even recommended protection for a single police officer. They go there, they laugh about it, they say, oh, God blessed me. I'm in a shama, I sell eggs, then they let go. Listen, imagine if there's a centralized occurrence book, and that every single police officer across the country, from vigilance, you can actually access and say, there are 10 people have been detained in Kisumu for this offense, and in Lamu for this offense. That is actually centralized. That actually, you can keep tabs. Imagine you can actually keep tabs on how many police officers we have in this country and where they're patrolling. Kenya Police Service have a very archaic of patrolling. They leave Central Police Station, they told, we patrol Moi Avenue. Anafika Moi Avenue at the very end, anavuka barabara, anarudi hivi, akimaliza anarudi hivi. That's how they patrol. That's how they patrol. And because of the way, the level of intelligence of the people that they actually hire, they've actually formed these squads, hit squads, that are either controlled by Boynet and the others controlled by Dogo Muhoho. And some of those hit squads actually are also hired by politicians.
You don't even know the name of the
finish. Let me finish.
You don't even know the name of the director of CID. You
Nego
call him
Muhoro is Muhoro, Nego Muhoro,
You look
who
very
runs also a
ignorant.
hit squad. Let me finish this actually. Jacob Juma was killed by a police hit squad. George Mushai was killed by police hit squads. Some of these big murders in this country, or a land dealer at Ekuno's kill, is done by actually the police hit squad.
But those are not allegations that can be proven.
No, if they think it's not true, they can take me to court. He's here, he can investigate me. My point is this is actually, the people have the capacity to do some of these killings are police officers. These Vinyangarikas, you call them scoundrels, you guys. They say the ones that you actually kill and call them scoundrels. These guys actually calling scoundrels have no capacity to follow a member of parliament or a politician and kill them.
Excuse me. Are you the same gentleman who poured
blood on you?
Blood on me?
Yes, it's you. The uniform that you're wearing.
Why did you pour blood on me?
Because you are a killer police force.
You are very immoral.
No,
you
no,
don't need, you cannot,
killer
excuse
police
me,
force.
you are not worth,
Yes,
excuse
stay
me,
on
you
the
are not the
argument,
right
Mr.
person
Stay on the
who is,
argument.
just a minute, yes,
Just
no, but we are talking about morality.
Just counter
No,
his
no,
morality.
this is factual.
Yes. Go
I'm the
ahead.
police spokesperson.
Counter the
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm the police spokesperson.
We are very much
This
aware.
cloth is not mine. This is authority.
Paid by taxes.
Excuse
Paid
me.
by my taxes. The uniform
Excuse
you're
me.
wearing is
You
paid
know-
by my taxes.
You know what you did
Yes.
is very immoral, and you don't deserve to sit here. In fact, I forgave you.
You don't have to forgive me.
And in fact, you have not thanked me for being very gentle on you.
Why?
Mr. Wino, focus on the
The uniform you're wearing
Are you getting
is
me?
bought by
You are-
me.
you are young.
By day,
Excuse me.
Mr. Wino, focus
You are
on the
young.
discussion.
You are
Let's-
young.
let's not lose
Excuse
the
me.
focus
on the
You are
discussion.
young. You are immoral.
No,
You
let's
are
not make
indisciplined.
It's
this
not about
personal.
age. Listen,
For example,
the uniform you're wearing today,
You are
the day
very-
you get fired or leave,
You are very-
you leave it in the police service.
Mwangi, hold it
You
right
are
there.
very
Just hold it
immoral.
right there.
You
Mr.
are
Wino,
very
focus on the
indisciplined.
discussion.
Not indisciplined.
You are very immoral.
All right, let me bring in Vincent.
No,
No,
just a
hold
minute.
on.
Trevor,
The
we
uniform
have
he's
to
wearing
Trevor,
belongs to the Kenya
Trevor,
government.
That's all right.
That's my
Focus
uniform.
on the-
Paid by my
focus on the
taxes.
discussion.
Trevor,
Focus on the
relax.
discussion.
Just relax. This is a very immoral young man.
I'm not immoral.
Very indisciplined.
I'm not indisciplined.
You are not even worth sitting here.
This is not your
Focus
seat.
on
How
the
This is
many
the
discussion.
TV.
cases, excuse me, how many cases
Yes.
have you taken to the Kavludi team during vetting that you have said this officer is A, B, C, D? How many?
The
Because you
complaints
said you have,
have been listed.
How many have you taken? You know, I'm talking to you.
No, I'm also talking to you.
Yeah.
Let
How
me
many
first-
cases?
You have said that I'm indisciplined.
No, how many cases?
I'd like to say this
And
actually.
who has told you
The
that
uniform
policemen ought to be
that
poor?
Chancellor Wino is wearing was bought by my taxes.
Focus on the
And
discussion.
the reason why I poured blood on it was talk about Kenya Police Force and the killer. Because you guys, you're symbolism.
You know,
You're the
let me
symbolism
tell
of
you.
the killer police service.
Let me
Yes,
tell you.
Yes.
Next time, if I'm told you are sitting in a forum where I'm supposed to come and not come.
I knew you would show up.
You are not one. Excuse me. No, I don't fear you.
Neither do I.
You are very immoral and useless.
Very immoral.
Do
I look like I'm afraid of you?
Focus on the discussion.
Owino, your uniform ni yangu.
Can I address
Vincent,
two issues?
give me then we'll come to you.
Just give me a minute.
Okay,
I want to address two issues.
Yeah.
Number one is the identity of deceased person. And I will go back to the case of Egerton University students. When these students were shot, the bodies were taken to the city morgue. And I personally went to the morgue, and they were booked in as unidentified male adults. That is on record at the city morgue. That, despite the fact that these people had their national ID, ATM cards, student ID.
They were still shot.
The law is very clear that once a person has been shot dead, it is the duty of the police to inform the next of kin.
Okay, hold that thought. Let me take a call first, then we come to the response. Good morning. Good morning, Kennedy. Yes, endelea. Endelea, Kennedy. Una swali?
Good morning.
Good morning, Kennedy.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, sir. I want to make a contribution.
All right. Okay, Angira, you're finishing. We'll get back to that call in just a bit.
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
It is indeed a fact that police did not act professionally. These people were shot, they had the ATMs, as I said, national ID, but when the bodies were taken to the city morgue, they were booked as unknown. That tells you that there's something they were hiding. Then finally back to the case of Kangemi shooting. Personally covered the story. We went there, interviewed the eyewitnesses, and it is a fact that this person was shot after he had been disarmed. And these are the issues we are raising. Well, the story was covered, other institutions took over the investigations, and what happened? The matter went to court. These are the issues we are addressing. I would want to be here and address specific issues, not general.
What I can say is that we are not opposed to anybody reporting a specific issue. We are opposed to blanket condemnation of the service. If an individual police officer commits an offense, he's dealt with individually. Angira left the service very painfully because a robber stole his gun from him. And he had to be relieved of his duties for a very unfortunate incident of a robber. I'm sure it is because of maybe that feeling he had. Maybe if he would have shot that robber, he would still be having his job. But he refused to act. So he refused to act. So he's a nice boy. So what I'm saying, that his gun has been used by that robber. Angira, you know the gun was recovered. And you know, and no, just a minute. And Angira knows that that gun, that he refused, if he would have killed that robber, that gun would have not been used to kill an innocent citizen. But I know he would have been accused by you people if he did that, Paul Angira. Exactly. But I'm just giving a very practical. No, I'm just giving. I'm just giving a very. But you see, let me tell you, if you are not armed and you want to take away my gun, I'll shoot you. It's justified, because if I leave for you that gun, I'm irresponsible. And that is why I'll be dismissed, because that gun will be used to kill someone, as it was used to kill someone.
Let me take the calls, then we come back to the discussion. Good morning. Hold on one second. Let's take a call here first. Good morning. Good morning, Kennedy. Kennedy, good morning.
Hello? Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead with your comment or question.
Yes. I wanted to make a contribution.
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Go ahead with your comment or question.
Yeah, I want to make a contribution to what is being discussed this morning.
Yes, go ahead.
What I'm not understanding, all the panelists don't seem to understand that policemen are human beings.
Okay.
And policemen are faced with challenges, especially in slum areas, Mathare, Kawangware, and any other slum area that we may find. Why I'm saying this is because, one, is that because of the economic situation, people have become very desperate in that region, in those regions that I'm talking about, Mathare, Kawangware, and so on. So when you deploy a policeman to go and handle a matter in Mathare or Kawangware, he's dealing with a social problem that is more than a police thing. So there's certain force. If a policeman may not use that force he may not achieve anything in those regions. Because guys are hardened because of the economic situation. So blaming Owino, saying this and that, I think is being unfair.
All right.
Second thing I wanted to mention that joining a police force is service or service, maybe for the service, is a calling. Now, when we keep on saying that police live in very bad situations, they are the same people who are encouraging policemen to say that, I'm living in a very bad situation, my salary is not good, this is not fair, whatever. So I'm not going to do my job until you give me something small. We actually are the people who are encouraging policemen to do corruption.
All right.
3, I want to mention that it is true that not all policemen are bad. We have rogue policemen. I think the vetting thing, they forgot one thing, that they need to receive the policemen who should serve in areas like Madare, they receive special training, as opposed to policemen who are serving in other areas. Because if you separate the two, then you'll be able to assist those policemen in those slum areas to serve those people better.
All right. Thanks, Kennedy.
Thank you.
And take the second call. Sarah, good morning. Good morning, Sarah. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead with your comment or question.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead with your comment or question.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment.
Yes.
Should I?
Go ahead. All right, Vincent, you wanted to comment on this, and there's actually an allegation that it's the people who are making excuses for the police force by saying they live in deteriorated conditions, therefore they now ask for bribes. Are we justifying the issuing of bribes here?
No, I think that the issue that must be addressed, and it's really only one issue so far, is that the police need to respect the right to life of people who can be arrested. And what many of these cases show is that these people are easy to arrest in many cases. There are those who fight, there are those who resist. But even in cases like, and this is why the Shauri Moyo case is so important, there are lots of cases where this, and like this boy was only 17. So, and you know what the Police Act Schedule 6 says about using of force around children. These are children. And so you have to take special care around them. So if you're going to shoot a child and immobilize him, you don't then go and finish him off. And that finishing off is the problem. A lot of the people who we spoke to in writing these stories, the mothers have only one complaint. Mr. Owino had earlier said that everyone will defend their child and not say they're a criminal. That actually is not true. The people we spoke to in Mathare freely admit that their children used to steal. They're not defending them. They're saying, he used to steal. The problem is not that. The problem is that many times these officers will see a person, they will note so-and-so is stealing, but the problem is what happens after that. So they will not arrest him committing a crime. He could be sitting down. There is one case in Mathare, actually, that is not this year or last year, I believe it was a 2015 case. I think it was 2015, sorry, so last year, where a child was pulled out of bed. He was sleeping. He was pulled out of bed and shot.
That is according to the story that you got.
This
from
is
those people.
This is what his mother will tell you.
Yes, and that is the bare truth that you believe in.
The problem is, even
things should not be subjected to any investigation.
Kwekwe Mwandaza was sleeping in the middle of the night when the police arrived.
This is not.
Yes, that's a specific case, boss. And the persons were taken to court.
And the one
we are not in denial of that. I've told you, police is not my property. Police is a service for the nation.
But Mr. Owino, here's the bigger point. Here's the bigger point. Here's the bigger point.
No, what I don't like.
When we talk about
just give me 1 second.
Let me make this point because you've spoken a lot. You can respond to the well-crafted point. There is a big assumption when we talk about, complain to the police, let's mount an inquest, let's talk to IPOA. We forget about the people who are afflicted by these problems. The level of education in the slums is not very high. It takes a certain amount of facility with the law to navigate the system and actually complain.
And
Now,
there's the issue of fear.
if the policeman who shot your son is someone you see every day walking, okay, he's intimidating. They are scared.
I want to say this. So
that your son has not threatened the life of any other neighbor.
I'll take it back.
He's already dead, but now...
Fine,
but it was
fine.
fine.
You know, like Angira just told you a few minutes ago about the Sharumoyo case. Angira, you remember this boy was arrested?
Yes.
At one point.
Yes.
He had stolen a phone.
Yes.
It was even negotiated and given back.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So we cannot say police never make arrests. But now what we need to look at is the specific circumstance in which this person has died and say, was it justified or not? Because if we just listen to what they are telling us, and we are not giving, and you know, that was the spirit why we even fought as the police service. Before they were employed to IPOA, we fought to have a civilian oversight authority as police, because we realized that even though we have our own complaints, just a minute. No, these things are there. We have presentations. Excuse me. We have presentations we made before this constitution was put in place. We are the ones who asked for police service commission as police. We are the ones who asked for an independent oversight authority. I have the 204-208 strategic plan for police. When we leave here, Olola, come and see.
Olola,
it was not done by you. Just a minute. Give me time. Olola,
how much time do you want?
We are the ones. No, we are the ones. I'm telling you. I have 204-208.
When you say we, you are who and who?
The police.
The police.
No, the police.
I speak on behalf of police. Olola, you've gone to school.
Okay, can I?
Just a minute.
Let's not go to that.
Just a minute.
It is no doubt that
Excuse me. Give me time to explain because I'm the one under attack. Olala, I was telling you. Don't stop me.
Let's not talk like that.
Don't stop me.
Let's be civil.
No, please. No. I'll not accept. Don't stop me. I was giving you an example of how all these institutions came to place and you are disputing. And I've just told you, let's walk to my office now. I'll give you 204-208 strategic plan for the police, where we asked for the Police Service Commission and we asked for the Oversight Authority. The reason why we were asking for the Civilian Oversight Authority as police is because many a times we investigated ourselves. Just like now we have the Internal Affairs Unit. And it is very difficult for the public to trust sometimes the reports that we give compared to a Civilian Oversight Authority. And that is why we expect that when some of these cases arise, you will be able to investigate them. And then, where the police is found culpable, the police officer is...
Okay,
just a minute, let me finish.
The police officer...
Excuse me, the police officer
let them respond
is
now.
charged.
Let them respond.
No, just
let IPOA
let me finish what I'm saying.
Very briefly.
Let me finish.
Yes.
We are here to debate.
But you're taking the entire time. You're debating with yourself.
No, very briefly.
You know, we are talking to audience. For your information, my duty is to close the rift of mistrust between the public and police.
You're doing a very bad job at that.
No. Just finish it.
And no, if we are to go for a vote...
Mr. Wino,
you're bullying me. You're bullying everyone here.
If we are to go for a vote, if we are to go for a vote, you see, it is the police that is under attack. And I speak for police. I'm just reminding my brother on the importance, how much we regard the role of IPOA. Because for cases that IPOA will clear the police, there would be no doubt
Olalo, please
from the hands of the police.
Let me say something.
Yeah.
I think everybody is aware about the reforms that came into this country, how they came about, how the police were repressive, what they did in 2008, and how institutions like IPOA...
No.
You can take on the credit. Let me speak.
Let him finish, Mr. Wino.
Olola, you are very unfair.
Let me tell you,
Mr. Olola, go ahead.
That out of 98 cases that we have 94 cases that we have investigated this year, we have cleared the police in 54 cases. That shows you how fair we are to the police. We would not take the police to court. We would not recommend action. 94? When out of 94, 54 cases, we have cleared them because we more than half.
Are they all for killings or others for other?
For killings, serious.
So how many have, out of these 94? How many have police been accused for killings? Because you know you don't receive
about 24.
Yes.
24 cases
so
where you have been
what we are
accused of
discussing here
yes.
is about police
yes.
killings.
Yes.
So when
killings,
just a minute, when you give 94 cases, people will imagine that
yes.
the 94 cases you
yes.
have are
yes,
for
I have
killings.
clarified it is 24. So let me go
so
on.
out of 24, how many have you cleared?
Let him finish.
So we are talking about a police force which needs redemption.
We are not a police
and
force.
if you a police service which needs redemption, and that is why we have Article 244 in the Constitution. Article 244 is very specific on what the police are supposed to do. The institution that is there to help the police achieve those requirements in Article 244 is IPOA. And I wanted to respond to the caller, Kennedy. Kennedy says that policemen are human beings, and when we send them to Mathare, these are people who are hardened, etc. But that is also the reason that these people are trained. There's the reason why you spend time in Kiganjo. There's a reason why you spend time in Embakasi, so that you know how to deal with combat, how to deal with human rights, so that you know how to deal with the public. It is not just me and you walking into Mathare and trying to do law enforcement. And the other reason is saying that if we call for good living conditions for police, then that is unfair. As IPOA, we have taken it as part of our responsibility to ensure that police premises are in good condition. They are habitable. They are in conditions that deserve a human being to live in. Because we know for a fact, and you see these killings, police killing themselves. Part of it is because of the stress. They are living in deplorable conditions. They are paid poorly. So there's nothing wrong to advocate for them to live in a better way.
Okay, before I bring Vincent and
can I say something?
Let me take a call, then you say something. Okay. Vincent and Boniface. Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, Patrick, go ahead with your comment or question.
Hello.
Hello, Patrick, go ahead with your comment or question.
Thank you very much for giving me the chance. Mine is a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that the police are being demonized for nothing. With criminals have been terrorizing us a long time, and when the police kill them, the human rights people are always there to talk for them. Yet when we are killed by criminals, they never say anything. Mr. Mwangi is actually praised by criminals because of what he has been saying. Mr. Owino, I know police are not doing very good job, all right? They can improve on what they are doing. I live in Kayore, where young boys are killing people day in, day out, and the police do not kill them. I think they should be killed to save us. Or if you can make it, say that we civilians be given guns to protect ourselves, these the police are not allowed to kill. Because it is unfair for people to be killed even during the daytime by small boys having guns in Kayore. Yet, Mr. Mwangi will be there to talk for them.
Okay.
Mr. Winner, I think you are doing a good job, and I encourage you, the police, to kill such people.
All right.
Unless, of course, they are not armed. If they are not armed, let them be arrested. But if somebody is armed, why do the police not kill them?
All right, thanks, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
Patrick. That's
All
Patrick making very strong sentiments. Let Boniface respond because that was a direct attack.
I'll say this.
And then you come to Vincent.
I have organized a protest in support of the police. When the Baragoi massacre happened, I did a protest all the way from Freedom Corner all the way to Vigilance and Parliament, and I asked for better conditions for the police and pay the next of kin, better living conditions. I'm actually a strong advocate of the police. I've done that before. Also, I'm a very strong advocate of the Kenya military. We did a vigil for them when they died in a Lade attack. Yeah. So I support the police, actually. One of my sisters actually was fathered by a police officer. In time past, I've worked with police officers, and I still work with police officers. So I support the police officers. Now,
so your stepfather is a police officer?
Let him finish.
Who was a police officer. And actually, my dad was a DO. So I understand how the police work. And I'm not here to demonize the police. The police are supposed to do their job. We are all asking, can you serve us better than you serve members of parliament and politicians? What Owino is saying indirectly here, and I can hear from that caller is actually saying, is that if you steal, you should die. But that means if you steal and you're poor, that's when you die. But if you're rich and you steal, you get a presidential escort or you get police protection. Because the people who are being killed are all poor. You won't come across any killing of a rich person among the killed here. There's no one. There's not a single rich person who's going to be executed. No. Anne will go to be shot. She'll be arrested and be taken to court. My point is, when it comes to dealing with poor people, you use deadly force. Let's talk about protests in Siaya and the killing and even the IBC demonstration in Nairobi. Why do you send police officers to a demonstration with live bullets? Why do you do that? Why?
Vincent, you are...
There's a budget for, in the Kenya police, there's a big budget. I think 2 billion shillings every year. Yeah. Why don't you buy rubber bullets? Okay. I've seen people being shot in peaceful protests. You're carrying a placard and you get shot.
Okay. And Vincent, so, there's a story you did here.
Let's talk about training. How long do you train your police officers? And then how often do you take them for retraining? If you look at your body size, can you run after police officers? No. Look at most police officers, all of them, OCS, let me finish.
You've seen the officers in America.
No, let me finish.
A police officer must be very strong.
Not strong.
like you. Excuse me. You've seen police officers in Europe. You can talk about my stomach if you feel it is big, but not my strength. I'm the one protecting the public. I must be strong. I must be able to deal with you.
It's intellect, not body size. It's intellect, not body size.
I'm an intelligent person.
I'm saying, okay, let me finish. It's important that I finish my thought pattern. I was saying this. So look at even at the body size of OCS or CPD. These guys, the moment they leave Kiganjo, they never go for retraining. How often do you take the constable back for retraining? How to use their firearm and how to control a crowd. Let me say this, Mr. Owino, with all due respect. A police officer should be high tolerant of bullshit and crap from the public. You should actually be very patient with the public because you're dealing with all manner of people. You need to be able to actually be very patient. You can't respond with everything with force and slaps and kicks.
All right, Vincent, let me come to you. And there's a story you did, Vincent, actually, and this is by an account by Victoria Wamboy, and she says there are 3 people who were shot in a site, and then the weapons were planted on them.
Bonoko.
Yes. They say the police actually put the weapons on them. And this is one allegation that we get a lot, and I think you'll also comment on that.
Yeah, what happened in this particular story, it's the reason I was particularly interested in this story was because many times you get stories of survivors. So someone will be shot, and then the person who is making the case for this person is the mother, trying to find out who killed or a relative or so on. It is very rare that you get someone who saw it happen and is willing to talk about it. And this was one such story. So this was, and that's why despite it being in 2013, not 2015 or 2016, it has the prominence that it has. What she says is that had she been a man, she would have died. Okay? So there was no indication that, because what happened was that one of the people who got shot, that Silas Mutheni, was a porter. He used to work in Isli. He used to carry goods, and apparently that day he had only made 180. So you can imagine the hard labor. He makes only this amount of money, and then he got shot. The problem is that she's confident, had she been a man, she would have died.
But she also admits one of these people here were criminal.
And that is the problem.
Can I ask him one
Let me address that. Let me address that. It's a very important allegation that he made also with the Shauri Moyo case that we need to tackle. The fact that you say that just because someone is involved in a crime and he deserves to be shot, I think is at the heart of the problem. The Constitution of Kenya is very clear. Article 25, fundamental rights and freedoms that must not be limited. One of them is the right to a fair trial. Must not be
I have
limited.
one question. Where do you take all this information that you collect? You give it to the media?
He publishes.
We publish.
Or you publish?
We do research and we publish.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But in bid to help or support these persons that you claim are unfortunate and you have the information, maybe they cannot bring the information to me and you are lucky they have brought the information to you. Have you made any attempt to address this issue, either with the police, to find out this case happened? Because you have been given a story.
That now would become the
Excuse me.
function of IPOA.
You have been, no, just a minute. No, I want to know if he passes that information, because it can also help us at the end of the day, because there may be a lot of information which we also don't receive.
So you're not denying that this may have happened?
I cannot.
Well,
because you know why, excuse me, just 1 minute. You know why I cannot deny?
Yes.
It's because every allegation that is put forward must be subjected to some investigation and some confirmation, because most of the reports are unsubstantiated. So I can't dismiss them. It would be unfair for me to dismiss any report that is brought to us, because it is the duty of police to protect every citizen.
Okay.
Even that one killed by the police, it is still our duty.
Well,
let me answer.
And IPOA can tell you, we have prosecuted.
Give him a chance to answer.
Just a minute.
Let him answer.
Let me answer.
Yes,
it's
okay. Go ahead.
The important thing, one of the important things to note is that as a newspaper and a publisher, publishing is our first interest.
Yes.
That is the first job we do.
And when the story is interesting, you sell a lot.
Follow-on actions can be done. But what we have seen is that in cases where, like in the case I'm talking about, it happened in 2013, and it was not followed up at all.
So, okay, before I bring in Ipole,
so hang
let's
on,
take a call
hang
from
on.
Mombasa.
It was
Mombasa is one
so
of the places
because
that
we
we've done a
asked.
lot of
So you are selling news.
Hold on.
We're not selling anything.
Let's take a call from Bilha in Mombasa first, then we'll come back to the discussion. Good morning, Bilha.
Habari asubuhi.
Salama sana.
I want to make a comment.
Sawa, Bill.
So,
Endelea.
I want to support the police.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, endelea, Bilha.
I want to support the police, especially here in Mombasa.
Yes.
Ambapo tumeona mambo mengi ya waizi about they carry guns, even very small boys of 17 years, even less than 17 years.
Yeah.
And these are people who carry guns. At the end of the day, how can the police wanawezaje kuwa kudeal na watu kama hawa ambao wanabeba bunduki?
Okay.
So we are in support of the police. And at the end of the day, also remember, these same human activists, hakuna siku polisi akiuawa hiyo nini data wanaweka wanasema polisi kadhaa wameuliwa na wakora. But we hear of gangsters, wanahesabu mambo ya gangsters, lakini mambo ya polisi hawahesabu polisi wangapi wameuliwa na wakora. And you know there are so many policemen that have been killed by thugs. Okay. So for me, I support the police in the work that they are doing, because even going to church, even in our church unakuta Sunday, polisi wanasimama mlangoni.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we have to encourage the police, the job that they are doing. Hakuwezi kosa pengine kuna kitu ilienda baya pengine kwa a few of the rock policemen, but we know majority of the policemen are doing the right thing.
All right, thanks.
That is my comment.
Asante sana. That's Bila from Mombasa. Yes, before I bring in Olola, finish real fast.
I can answer that. I think that, again, to cycle back to the reason why we decided to do this, the police actually published the number of police officers who die in duty. That is true. If you look at the annual crime report, you can find those numbers. So it's not that we don't appreciate that. When they publish those reports, we do publish them. So that's not what is at issue here. And all the times that homicides are committed, assaults are committed, robberies are committed, we treat that information with the importance it deserves. That is not the problem. What primarily started all this is that up till now, even up till now, we don't have an official police figure for how many they shot. And this will keep running through until Mr. Owino says that in 2015 the police shot 50, which he hasn't said, or whatever number he may want to put forward. That number doesn't exist. So these records are not kept. And so that is why we have decided that we need to find out exactly how many.
Okay, Mr. Lola, there's one particular thing that's coming. Let me read that. There's some comment here. This is actually in support of the police. You need to listen to
fine,
this.
it will support the police, but I will forget. I want to know this work that you do.
Yes.
Who pays you? Do you earn from do you sell the newspapers or the newsletters? How do you earn?
But we're losing the focus.
No, I just want to find out because I have a question that will follow that.
We are losing the discussion.
No, we are not losing. You know why? Excuse me. No, Trevor. You know why I'm saying that? No, you know, Trevor, why I'm saying that? You can write juicy stories for because it is said it may not be written. A story may not be written when the dog bites you. But it will definitely be written when you bite the dog.
It's a very easy question to answer.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I have no connection with the financial side of the business.
Yes.
I don't know what goes on there.
No, but
I have no idea.
Who
I'm a journalist. I have no idea.
No. Who funds this?
No, you see, the problem with
any of this.
Nobody.
We're talking about police killings. Not who earns what.
No. You
know why?
That's what you want.
You know why? Excuse me.
Let
Just give me a minute.
You're pulling everyone.
Mr. Owino,
You know why I'm asking that?
You are trying to.
No, you know why I'm asking that?
You are trying to discredit.
No. I'm not
journalism.
discrediting. No, I'm not discrediting.
Yes.
I'm trained.
Move us from the focus.
Yes.
I'm not discrediting.
And to derail
What I'm trying to say, the point that I wanted to bring forth is, I asked you the first question.
Yes.
Where do you take this information?
We publish
because
it.
you get this information, you publish it.
Yes.
But apart from publishing it, it would be my interest if you get information to give it directly to police as a form of a complaint,
or give it to IPOA?
Well, by publishing it, we make it available.
No, you can make it available.
Let me clarify that.
On
this case of Sharumwe we are talking about, we have it as IPOA, we are investigating it. I don't want to comment about it because we need to investigate it, and it's still under investigation.
And
but I wanted to say something. I wanted to say something.
To have published it until
regulations. There's the idea of using force and firearms. The law, and it is not even the IPOA Act, it is the National Police Service Act, which provides, it's a situation where the police are not supposed to use force at all, or firearms.
What do you mean?
And in fact, the minister is required under the law to come up with regulations when police are supposed to carry firearms. That has not been done. The minister and the inspector general, they're supposed to come up. If you look at your Schedule 8, they're supposed to come up with regulations on when you should carry firearms, because it is not every time that you're supposed to be intimidating people in the villages with firearms. But I wanted to say something which I think somebody brought out about how they just shoot people and things just happen. I mean, there's something called arms movement register, and we are now moving, one of our major focuses as IPOA is to look at how police keep records. Because the records of the police are deliberately kept poorly so that you don't get proper information. The arms movement register is where you will find who was issued with which gun today, who was issued with how many ammunitions, how many rounds of ammunition today, and whatever. And they make sure they mix it up so that when you go, and that is why, let me finish, that is why you go and find, that is why you go, you find they have guns that they can plant, they have bullets that they can plant.
Because
it's not a morality contest I'm having with you, Mr. Wino. I'm not having a morality contest with you. There are disciplined police officers, please be disciplined.
You are immoral.
No, let him finish, then you respond.
You are lying. We are the people who keep our records.
What I'm saying is, when you ask for those records,
excuse me,
you will find
let him
finish.
We have even firearm records that
finish.
were issued in 1954, even 38.
Mr. Lola,
deliberately.
No. That is not. Excuse me, Olola.
Mr. Wino, let him finish.
Olola,
if you go to
Olola, you are misbehaving. You are misbehaving
at the city morgue.
Yes.
You will find. So many. I mean, why would you, for
Olola,
instance,
excuse me.
We are talking about the Madare question.
Excuse me.
You
You are a government institution.
9 times.
Excuse me. You are an institution. Excuse me. You are an institution established by government, and your statement is reckless and unprofessional. You are very reckless and very unprofessional. You don't deserve to sit in If you can dare say he's saying police records are not kept.
You will not listen.
I will, because I'm the policeman. You are not a policeman. You are not a policeman.
Let's be civil.
Just one line.
Let Angira talk about this.
No, but you see, it cannot come from IPOA that we are not keeping records for firearms.
You don't keep proper records.
Binja, Trevor.
How many have you audited that?
No.
Let him answer this. No, let him answer this. Let him answer this.
But I've answered you.
Have you audited our records on firearms?
I will tell you even a case. Let me give you an example. The other day, we were about to charge an officer from the Central Police Station. Why?
For what?
Because when there was a riot at the university, he says that these are the people he issued with firearms, these are the people we issued with these rounds of ammunition. When we go to check, we found there was something wrong with that record, and he had to come and explain it to us. What was the mistake?
Excuse me. If an officer in charge of a police station,
many of them are falsified.
Excuse me, you've given one example. If an officer in charge of a police station makes a mistake in his administrative duty that is clearly stipulated, you cannot say policemen are not keeping records.
Proper records.
No.
Is the what?
No, Mr. Lola, that is very reckless.
I want to say this.
Very reckless.
Okay, I wanted to actually talk about recklessness. Just 1 sec. My point is, when he says that these guys are writing juicy stories, he's insulting the parents of the dead children and their families. You can't make it about juicy stories. Let's not trivialize why we're here.
All right,
Agira.
I want to, through heckling, tackle 3 issues, and I will want to remain as focused as possible. Number one.
Government institution.
Angira, go ahead. Angira.
Number one.
Excuse me, Bwana. You are a government institution, and there is a way government institutions carry out their duty.
Now, Mr. Wino, can I address 3 issues?
Yes.
Number one, as a journalist, I will say that we are very fair in the way we report our stories. So many people are killed, but we've picked on specific cases, which up to now, the police headquarters does not want to address. when, for example, we are doing some of these stories, like, sorry to refer back to Sherumi case again, I asked the mother, has this boy ever been involved in other criminal activities? That one shows that we are very, very objective. I'll give you another story. When there's a special unit within the CID. Whenever they made the recovery, it was HK21. Whenever they made a recovery, it was HK21. Then we did a story and say, it is very funny that whenever this particular unit of the CID makes a recovery, it is HK21. That was the end of the story. My point number 2 is about inquest. Who is supposed to initiate the inquest? I gave example of Ruaraka police station. Someone dies in custody. The law is very clear that when someone dies in custody or commits suicide, the police should initiate inquest. But this is a case whereby the station commander decides to charge one of the suspects who was in custody. The matter is before court. Finally, Mr. Wino, is it true that the police headquarters support these oversight bodies? And I'll give you an example. In May this year, the Director of Internal Affairs Unit wrote to the Inspector General asking him to give directions to commanders to cooperate with the oversight authorities. Are you aware of that?
Can I? I'm not aware, but
I
I want to answer you on a few areas. You talk about you being objective in your reporting.
Yeah.
In that report you made on Sunday and Monday, you talked about 122 people killed. Isn't it?
Yeah.
In the body of your report, you gave about 7-8 cases.
Yeah.
It would have been more objective because that headline itself creates a very glaring question. To me, if you would have said police have not accounted for death of 9 people or 7 people and gave us those ones, I would not have a problem. That's number one. Number two, you are saying that people were in custody and 1 person died.
Yes.
If a person dies and the other suspect remains, the other suspect who remains, it is not wrong charging him if there are facts against him.
They are not.
But I'm saying, even if there were 3 or 4,
yeah.
But the fact that 1 person has died in custody and an inquest is opened for him or not opened for him does not stop us from charging the other suspect if there are facts.
Yeah.
If there are facts. But conclusively, I would want to say this. We are not contesting cases where police officers have unjustifiably killed people. What we are not going to accept is to leave the country vulnerable, that we are muscled, that we cannot use firearms where it is justified to use firearms. Because if we don't do that, the security of the country will not be managed. You know what has happened before in this country.
Okay.
You know how much we have had a lot of challenges. So what we are saying is, if there are specific facts, don't condemn a service. For example, Lola's case where a particular OCS has misbehaved in the manner he has distributed.
I didn't say OCS, I said an officer.
No, the person in charge of a police station is an OCS.
There's a person
and
in
is
charge
the one,
of the
excuse me,
register.
let me teach you. The
You are
person
not
in
teaching me, I know.
No,
The
you've never
person
been. The
in
person in
charge
charge
of
of,
the arms
no,
movement.
just a minute. There's an OCS who is in charge of the station, who is in charge of even deciding who will be given a firearm. Then there is an officer in charge of Amari.
Yes.
Many a times
That
a
is the
junior,
person we are dealing with.
a junior
who maintains the
officer
record,
who
the arms
maintains the
movement.
records. Yes.
Yeah.
So if he makes a mistake, the way you have said, and you have said well that you are dealing with him, you cannot say police don't maintain
Just one
records.
example.
All right.
Because you
Let's
have
take a
case.
caller here.
Sample.
We are running out of time.
Are you
Let me
getting
take
me?
one call before
At
we
that
come back to
level,
discussion.
you lack objectivity.
There's
Hold
something
on,
called
hold on.
sampling when
Hold
you
on
are
one
doing-
second. Good morning, Mr. Jonah.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead with your comment or question.
Yeah, yes, please. Today I just want to greet the panel,
All right, go ahead.
but I'm really worried about Mr. Owino. He's always very calm. I don't know why today he's on fire, quite on fire.
All right.
And the way he's reacting, I really fear dealing with the police now. From an example of Nakuru, where I was just you just harassed by the police for nothing. And I think with the way I'm seeing, I cannot even bring a case forward because of the way he's behaving and he's acting. So I would wish he deal with the issues, the real issues. Let's agree there's a corruption from the junior officers all to the senior officers, and that is making us hard to come out and address our issues. And as you can see, Mr. Wino today, I've always had lots of respect, and I will continue having that. But today, you're not addressing the real issue, and that is people are being killed.
Right.
So where can we go to the right thing and not just have a blanket on saying nothing, it's not good. I really think today you're making me fear the police force more. I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Jonah. Gentlemen, we are running out of time, but I'll give you 5 seconds each to give your final closing comment. I'll finish with you. Start with Bonnie. And there's this question from Valentine Mwamburu who says, how many police officers have died in the hands of criminals? And nobody seems to talk about that. So there's also the flip side. 5 seconds closing remarks really fast. We're out of time.
Do you want me to answer that question?
Both. Answer the question and give your final remarks.
Lest we forget why we came here. We came here to talk about people who have died in the hands of the police. He came with no data. He came with no numbers at all. He's just been throwing words and calling everyone immoral. We do not condemn the police. We want to work with the police to make our country safe. And because we pay the police from our taxes, the uniform he's wearing, the bed he sleeps in, the house he lives in, is actually paid by our taxes. So as an employee of the Kenyan people, you need to respect the public and work with us. Do not make us your enemy. We're not your enemy, by the way. We don't hate you. We love the police. They're our brothers and sisters. But treat our poor children the same way you treat the rich people. Do not presume them guilty before they are taken to court. You cannot be the jury, the judge, and the executioner.
All right.
When dealing with poor
that's
people.
Good. Vincent, closing remarks, really fast.
This project is something that, this Newsplex project is something we did to address an important gap. Our vision for it is that we will continue to record the people who die. And we're asking the public if they know or if they have people who have died at the hands of the police to get in touch with us.
You want to give the website?
Yes. The Newsplex database is at newsplex.nation.co.ke/deadlyforce. So they can send reports there. In addition to, this is not in exclusion to IPOA or the Independent Medical Legal Unit or all those other important organizations. We are urging, go ahead and do that. But so that we keep these records.
Okay.
And what we want most from the police is to acknowledge that they do not record the Kenyans they shoot, and they need to start telling us that.
Okay.
How many people they shoot, so that we understand the clear circumstances that in which this force is used.
Okay.
And to make clear again that the problem is not that people are criminals. It is that they have a right to life, they have a right to a fair trial under the Constitution, and just because you know someone is stealing is no excuse to shoot him.
Doesn't justify the killing.
When you find him
time, we'll bring in
an arrestable position.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Trevor. I wish to thank you for inviting us here. And I want to clarify for Mr. Wino and the rest of the police that IPOA is their brother. In actual sense, in terms of reforms in this country, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, the Independent Office of the Inspector General, the National Police Service Commission, and the National Police Service are institutions born out of the new constitution for purposes of bringing about police reforms. And we need to cooperate. Right now, the cooperation level is at its lowest, and that's why you see, I think, Mr. Wino getting very jittery. I think we want to ask the police, as my final message, please send the right message from the top. Let people not see that you support some of these things that are happening. Okay. If you bring out a word right from the top to the police spokesman that we do not entertain this sort of behavior, then the police will be reformed in this country. Thank you.
First of all, I want to say that we have always been fair in what we report. It's good that both the police headquarters and the Interior Ministry have acknowledged that there are few rogue officers. The main issues we are trying to raise here are the controversial circumstances under these people been shot. And remember, in some of our stories, we even highlighted justifiable circumstances of using a force.
All right, Mr. Wino.
Thank you so much. I think these are very healthy discussions, and it is important also to note where differences arise. Number one, our concern is not, we don't want to protect any officer, and you have said this every day, and I think we are one of the institutions that have taken their people to court most. Mr. Lola is aware that the Complaints Department and then the Internal Affairs Unit has taken more officers to court or taken more disciplinary actions on officers than even themselves. I had said earlier that it is an institution that we embrace because IPOA does not only deal with external complaints, they also deal with internal complaints, where we also want to see IPOA questioning certain internal issues, but within ourselves. We only become sad when, and why I'm becoming jittery, I want to say it very openly, is when you raise up a question and blanketly say police are not keeping proper records of firearms and bullets. It is outrageous. It should not come from them. They can say, yes, in these cases we have found officers have not kept records, and even us, when we find that, we take disciplinary action. So we become jittery when our own brother that is undertaking the oversight, that we can discuss with internally and correct issues, come out in public to attack us.
Okay.
Then that one, it becomes a problem.
All right.
But otherwise, we don't have issues, and we are waiting to see. You did well on housing issues and many other issues.
Okay.
And I'm one of the greatest supporters of the institution. But what I want to say, we have been given the mandate by the Constitution to protect lives and properties of Kenyans. We do not want institutions to prepare a platform. We are going for elections next year. And we are not going to allow this country. We were blamed in 2007, 2008 for allowing the violence to escalate.
Okay.
I can tell you, we are going to be very firm and be prepared.
Okay.
That we will take the responsibility and the risk to protect this country. And if elections are going to come, let every politician know that campaign peacefully, do what is right. We are trying to manage terrorism and Al-Shabaab and the rest, and carjackings and so on and so forth. And we have the command and control center now at National Police Headquarters, and we are coordinating. So what we want is cooperation. And where there is a problem, don't fail to point out the problem.
Okay.
But don't
incite
the public against the police. You are not going to get policemen from Rwanda.